I was teaching English in Zhengzhou, China. Zhengzhou is what the Chinese term a second-tier city, a metropolis of 8 million people that functions as the Middle Kingdom's equivalent of Cincinnati, Ohio. To me, climate change was, up until that summer, a vague nagging, a topic I could learn about later, maybe, when I had the time. And then one high summer morning, in the middle of Hunan province, at the center of the Middle Kingdom, on what otherwise should have been an unremarkable day, I stepped outside and found myself unable to see the skyscrapers on the other side of the street. I could barely see the sun. The black, acrid smog was that nebulous and thick. It stayed that way, inexplicably hazy, ominously overcast, difficult to inhale, for days. Even with a breathing mask, it felt like I was swallowing handfuls of cigarette ash every time I opened my mouth. I could smell what humans were doing to the earth. It smelled like exhaust. I could taste it. It tasted like ash. I could breathe it, but just barely. The thick haze covered more than just Zhengzhou. That summer, I traveled across the breadth of China, from Shenzhen in the south to Beijing in the north, and the smoke and haze followed everywhere I went. This was more than mere pollution. This was climate change. But what did it mean for my plan to move back to Miami at the end of the summer, a city whose vulnerability was already making headlines? What you're reading is the fruit of the research that I started in that Zhengzhou hotel room, with my laundry drying in the bathroom and the high summer sun obscured by smog. In the course of writing, I've interviewed more than 150 sources, made half a dozen public records requests, reported on 2 hurricanes, helped catch a python, kayaked up the Miami River, investigated a nuclear power plant, and followed in the wake of quixotic public officials showing off a shiny new piece of infrastructure meant to hold back the inexorably rising tide. This book's title comes from a conversation I had with a lobbyist in January 2017 while working as a freelancer for a local media outlet on a story about affordable housing. On the phone with Ben Solomon, a squint-eyed, blonde-haired real estate lawyer who sits at the nexus of power of realtors, construction companies, and developers in a city run by realtors, construction companies, and developers, we talked for almost 45 minutes. Even though Miami was in the midst of a housing crisis, he poo-pooed the idea of the county mandating that developers build affordable homes. The state legislature would later take away municipalities' power to do such pesky things. Close to the end of the conversation, I asked him, tangentially, what he thought about all this climate change stuff. He started talking about Miami as if it were a patient suffering from a terminal disease. Look, the press, the city, everybody here needs to have a good bedside manner about this issue of climate change, Solomon said. Sea level rise is definitely going to affect the market here, he assured me. I just hope that this thing is far enough away that we still have at least 5 or 6 good business cycles left. Solomon's cynical calculation shocked me. Property development, as we will see, is big business in Miami. But developers don't often hold onto a building for very long after they complete it, so they're relatively insulated from the risk of constructing thousands of condominiums in a city with a shrinking future. The conversation with Solomon cued me into one of the fundamental conflicts around climate change that this book seeks to address. For too long, discussions about what humans are doing to the climate system have been framed in terms of belief or disbelief. That's created a situation in which a vast asymmetry of information exists. Cynical actors are taking advantage of that asymmetry. For them, climate change isn't about believing or not believing, it's about winning or losing, and they plan to win. Many of these cynical actors have little immediate incentive to mitigate carbon emissions. Some don't even feel compelled to adapt. Perhaps they think they'll die of old age before climate change gets too bad, or that they have enough money to protect themselves from its effects. But all of the people who don't understand what is going to happen with the climate are going to get screwed. As Los Angeles and San Francisco burn with wildfire, as Phoenix broils, as Jakarta